Good evening, everyone from SNIC Rehab Foundation and Samartha Foundation both. I'm Harshali Kharche and I'm the founder and the managing director of SNIC Rehab Foundation. We are based in Nagpur. SNIC is basically Special Needs Integration Center. Our motto here is to create awareness about various disabilities, sensitize the society about the inclusion, acceptance, and various interventions. Also, I want to establish the support system for the parents in various areas like advocacy, emotional and mental health, children development and habitat, and financial sector. Very important to sensitize the government, people, and eminent personality of the society about the changes by special need, by challenges faced by special needs community. We are coming up with one center in Nagpur which will have all the facilities, and by doing these all the webinars, our motto is to educate the parents, develop their perspective towards the right kind of interventions and direction, and help them to work with their children at home, because this in COVID pandemic, we only have to work with parents with the help of professional online. So I guess this is the correct platform. We can connect to the more and more professionals. So today we have Dr. Shivani Pandit with us, the special educator and the founder of Samarthya Foundation. She is from USA, and she will give us knowledge about importance of developing play skill in overall development of a child. We know play is so important for our kids. So I will hand over to Dr. Shivani ma'am.
Hello, thank you so much, Harshali. I think I can share my screen now.
Yes, yes, you can.
Hello, welcome to everybody. As Harshali mentioned, my name is Shivani Pandit, and I am a special educator, and I have been working in the field of disabilities for the past 25 plus years in the US. I work with children with autism spectrum disorders, particularly the young ones in the early intervention ages. Today, I'm very happy to be here today with SNIC Rehab Foundation and Harshali Khache. Thank you for inviting me for this session. We are going to talk about the importance of play in child development. In particular, how do we develop those skills for our children with on the spectrum, on the autism spectrum. Um, and I'll just take a minute to share with you what Samarthya Foundation is. Like I said, I'm a special educator working in the field, in the United States, and I have started my own nonprofit organization for the past 6 years. Which is registered in the US and in India, but primarily with the function, with the purpose of working on projects to, inclusion of persons with disabilities in India. So we primarily at Samarthya Foundation, we focus on creating public awareness through inclusive children's books and storytelling. We provide teacher training, and we also work on providing parent training and support. And again, our focus is to provide supports to families of children with intellectual disabilities and those on the autism spectrum. So I'm happy to be here today, and welcome to all of you. I hope that the session being in English is going to be okay today, Harshali. I can switch back and forth between English and Hindi, but whatever the majority is comfortable with. So I'm assuming I'm going to go ahead and go English. Yes. Okay. All right. So today's agenda is to talk about play. We are going to really discuss the benefits of play. What are some of the stages of play in child development? What kinds of play is visible and observable? And what are some of the considerations that you can think about when you are playing with your child who is on the spectrum or who may be actually having an intellectual disability? What kinds of considerations should you think about when you think about developing their play skills? Okay. I'll start with this quote. I think this is a very, very important quotation that says, "Play is our brain's favorite way of learning." I find this very, very important because I think oftentimes play can sort of get neglected. It can sort of get ignored. When you have a child with a disability, there are so many things that as a parent you're thinking about. There are so many interventions you're going for. You're worrying about the child's cognitive development. You're maybe thinking about how the child is going to go into school, and you're thinking about academics, and a lot of the focus can sort of go into that direction of ensuring that your child is good in pre-academics and academics and functional mathematics and things like that. And I think what happens in there is that play oftentimes takes a back seat without realizing. If you don't understand the value and the importance and really the benefit that play or having good play skills can bring to your child, that's kind of my purpose, is that if you can walk away with one message today, is to understand why you should be playing with your child and how. Okay, so typically, if you think about in typically children, when a child is born, any child, play happens very naturally um, and there is tremendous amount of learning that happens in play, whether it's in the social area, whether it's in the emotional area, cognitive area, language, and so on. And but we know that particularly for children with autism, they may lack in their play skills. By that I mean they may lack in creativity or flexibility or variety or spontaneity. Harshali, can I request
आई कपड़े घाल.
I think somebody's yeah, thank you. So we know that those challenges exist for children with autism. And so we may need to teach them appropriate play skills so that we can stimulate learning, in all parts of development through one simple routine of a play routine or a play activity. And like I said, I think we need to really think about how play is going to stimulate the child's development, how play is going to stimulate the child's brain. And so this is why I love this idea that through play, the brain learns the best, or the brain learns the most. A lot of learning is happening during play, as you will learn today. Okay. So it's very simple to say that it's just play, or the child is just playing, just khel raha hai, just khel raha hai. Just playing is a very, we normally say this, he's just playing in a corner. Actually, there is so much that is happening in the child's brain and the child's learning that is not visible to us. It's not easy for us to see how the child is learning, but if you learn the kinds of things that a child can learn during a play routine, I think you will start to pay more attention, on how the child plays at home, and maybe start to pay attention in teaching them more play skills. So we know that play is a key factor. Through play, there's a lot of learning, development. Children learn confidence. Children develop their emotional health. They learn to interact with their peers. They learn to interact with adults, and there's a lot of that kind of learning that happens in a very simple looking, like playing on the slides, for example, or playing with the puzzle, or a pretend play. And I'll share all of these things with you as to what they actually are. And we also know that play helps children develop their social skills. That's very, very important, particularly for children with autism. We know that. Play helps learn or develop children's language skills as well as physical skills. So play, increasing play time. So if your child is not playing a lot during the day, in the home or in the school, what we find is that increasing play time actually can also decrease children's inappropriate behaviors or self-stimulatory behaviors. It can also help child become more independent in their free time, which is our primary goal, right? To teach children some good play skills so that they can have some independent play skills, so that they can be playing on their own or with their friends without the requirement of a parent being present, correct? Okay, so what is the importance of play? Like I said, play is one way by which children learn, and just all kinds of learning in all domains happens during play. And what is called a free or unstructured play is one way where there are no rules. Children, if you give children some typically developing children, if you give them some toys, they will just play with it, they will manipulate the toys, they'll make some things out of it. That's called free play. So there is no adult present, there is no instruction, there is no teaching, there is no agenda from the adult. That's free play. That's typically how all children learn about the world. Okay. Like I said already, social skills. Through a play activity, a child is going to learn societal rules. Like how do we, what kinds of games can we play? Games with rules. How do we take turns? How do we understand the rules of a game? And what are the rules of the society that are unsaid? In that sense, play can teach us that. They can learn about negotiation, they can learn about problem solving, and finally, play is really needed for, if nothing else, for fun and relaxation. It also has a huge impact on a child who may be, helping a child become calm, a child who's anxious. If we have designed a good play activity that can help them soothe, that can help them in their emotional regulation as well. Okay, so let us understand just a little bit about what is the impact of play in overall child development. All right, so we are going to look at each of the developmental areas, developmental domains, right, and understand how play is going to impact. And then we will get into different stages and different types of play, and how do we work with a child who is on the spectrum or who may have an intellectual disability. So what is cognitive development? Cognitive development is our ability to understand how things work. It could be through play activity. It could be that a child is able to compare the characteristics of different materials, different toys, different objects. They can learn to figure out how to make something work better. For example, if they're making a tower with blocks, if it's not standing up, what can they do? That's problem solving. It can teach them the power of trying again and again. So this is a typically developing child. You give them a stack of blocks, and they are going to learn a lot of cognitive skills within that. Social skills. Children can watch others play, copy them, share ideas, turn taking. The ability to be flexible with rules, following instructions, sharing, all of those skills all of those social skills you can learn in that one play routine, whatever that play routine may be. It could be building a block, or it could be pretending to be a teacher and doing a pretend play with a friend. So that's cognitive development here. Then you have social skills. Self-awareness. Children can also learn about themselves, about what they like, what they don't like. That's self-awareness through any kind of a play routine, right? Physical development. Of course, you know that through a play routine, we can improve children's sensory activities. It could be gross motor development. By gross motor, I mean anything that uses your big muscles of the body. So running, jumping, skipping, that helps develop the gross motor skills of the body. Or fine motor. Fine motor is using your fingers, for example. So any kind of a play activity that uses your fingers, for example, finger painting or sand play, that you are then promoting the child's fine motor development as well. Emotional development, like I said, it can be a good release for energy, or stress. Children may not be able to express their feelings otherwise. Sometimes through play, we can help them learn that. And of course, communication skills. That's like language and communication with play goes hand in hand, right? So whatever your child's level of language development might be, we can teach them to really show excitement for a particular activity, or when they experience something new. So you can see that overall play has an impact on every single developmental area of the child, starting from cognition, social, self-awareness, physical, emotional, and language. Okay, so with that understanding, now we know we have sort of built a foundation for why play is important, how play helps us in overall child development. Now, what kinds of skills should or can a child typically, or what kind of skills does a typically developing child learn through play? Now, these are just some things that I have listed. This is not everything. There are many more skills that a child can learn, but I wanted you to have an idea of how can we see this information and then connect it to what kinds of skills should we teach our children who have a disability? Okay. So simple things like eye contact, simple but really important skills that we need for our children to have. Eye contact, the ability to pay attention to an activity through play, being able to take turns. So for example, you're playing snakes and ladders, that board game, you're taking turns. Through play, we can teach a child to take turns. Being able to see the other person's facial cues, imitation, being able to imitate somebody's action, copy them, problem solving as a skill, being able to respond to an instruction. So if two children are playing and one child is giving the instruction, the other child is able to respond to that instruction by following through, right? Being curious about things, joint attention, that is so important as a skill for children with autism, as you all must know of and be aware of. Being able to initiate an activity with a friend, being able to say, hey, let's play this. If you're playing a pretend play game and I'll be the teacher, you can be the student. This kind of initiation, instruction, following, responding is all happening in a play routine. Then pause. Like if I do this, then this happens. This kind of an understanding is a skill that every child needs to have, in their learning journey. And these are, like I said, some of the skills that we know, we can see that children learn these skills through play. And the beauty of play is that you can embed it, you can actually embed it within your daily routine. So whatever your family's daily routine may be, if you are aware and mindful of embedding a play routine, like a play routine in the morning and a play routine in the afternoon, if you're planful and if you're mindful, imagine the number of things you can be exposing the child to. And some of the skills are right here in front of you that you can see. Okay, apart from that, why focus on play? There are some, now I'm going to specifically talk about children with autism or children with some intellectual disabilities, where particularly for children with autism, there are many practical reasons to focus on play development and teach play skills if necessary. Why? Because there are certain school challenges that you may see. For example, play skills affect a lot of learning situations at school. A child who's not appropriately able to play may have a hard time making friends, may have a hard time making those social connections. And why is that? Because for most children, much of their communication and interaction happens during play, right? So if one child is lacking those skills to play, then that friendship or that bond, it is difficult to form that. Even in the home, if the child lacks certain play skills, you may have difficulties, having a relationship with a sibling, and there may be, little issues like that. So if you think about from a practical perspective, why should you focus on play? Apart from all the developmental reasons that I just gave you for why it's important to stimulate the child's brain and their overall growth and development through play, is just some reasons why we can see that there could be some sort of school challenges that the child may face, or some home challenges with siblings. And so if we can think about ways in which we can teach a child to play, introduce some basic play skills, then we can be moving towards that direction of helping the child become an independently being able to play. Okay. All right. So moving on with that, I'm going to briefly touch upon stages of play so you can understand maybe where your child may be now, because all children are so different and so unique. And we can never say that, a child with with autism spectrum disorder, for example, who's 5 years old, and another child who's 5 years old is going to be exactly the same, right? We know that. So we can never say that these strategies would work for every child. But what I want to share with you is, if you can see where your child is in these stages of play, and I'm going to share some ideas and some tips for you that you can try it at home. You can pick up and see which ideas may work for you, for your child's skill level, for your child's age, for your child's ability level. Okay, so this is why it's an overview of the idea of play skills. But then depending on your child's age and need, you're going to have to pick up some of the strategies that would make sense to you. All right. So stages of play. Now we start right from when we are born. Okay, and this is called unoccupied play, about birth to 3 to 4 months. When a baby is born till about their 3 or 4 months, we don't realize that they're playing, but actually observing their surroundings, looking around, um, looking at their mother's face or their father's face. If a rattle is put in front of them, observing that rattle, that's called unoccupied play, but that sets the stage for all kinds of play learning. So it seems like it's nothing, but actually there's a lot that is happening in the baby's brain at that age when they're born, and they're looking around and they're observing and they're noticing different things about sounds and visuals and maybe smells. And so whatever is happening at that age, though it's not obvious, it's actually making a lot of connections in the brain. So the baby's brain is growing and learning in all the areas that we discussed before, right? After that comes, it's called solitary play. Solitary means alone. So what it means is that children typically at this age play alone. It's not because they want to be alone, but this is just the stage of play development. At this time, around birth to about 2 years of age, children like to play alone. So this is important. Having this skill, actually a child being able to do solitary play is very important, because then they can keep themselves entertained for some time. Eventually we want them to become independent, right, in their play skills. So it starts with solitary play. So it could be anything, like they could be playing with stuffed animals, blocks, dolls, push toys, books, anything where the child is not necessarily interacting with others. They are in front of the toy, they are playing on their own, and they're enjoying themselves. That's called solitary play. All right. After that comes parallel play. This is also very, very important in child development. About 3 years onwards, what children start to do is two children of the same age will play side by side. Okay, so they will not be playing with each other, but they are parallel, but they're okay being next to each other, and they may be playing with the, they probably are in their own world, but they are next to each other. This is called parallel play. This is also very important when we talk about children with autism. How can we develop this kind of a skill for them to be able to play with other children, even in a parallel play kind of a manner? Okay. And then after that, what happens, and parallel play is actually sort of a bridge for your next stages of play. They are more complicated, like cooperative play, interactive play, and pretend play. These three they require more complicated, complex skills. So parallel play is sort of that bridge. So we're going to talk about solitary play and parallel play today in much more detail. So you can maybe pick up some strategies today from the session and try it out at home. All right. So after that comes cooperative. Cooperative means, as the word suggests, two children having the ability to play with each other. So they may be maybe building a puzzle together or playing a board game like snakes and ladders board game, two children playing together. That's cooperative play. So this is important because this again sets the stage for how the child is going to learn to do future interactions when they grow up with another person. Correct? Interactive play, as the name suggests, again, the ability for a child to interact with an adult or another person. So sharing a toy, taking turns, imitating each other, this kind of a play environment is called interactive play. And finally, the last one is called pretend play. It's usually 4 years onwards. And in pretend play, what happens is that children pretend to be someone they're not. So this is also called imaginative play, because a lot of imagination is needed here. Or it's also called dramatic play. So they are sort of creating a drama. So for example, you are going to become a teacher or a doctor, or a banker, these kinds of role play. You're pretending to be somebody else. This play is towards the later ages, in the child development. So we are going to focus today mainly on solitary and parallel play, and I'm going to show you some ideas of how you can teach and have some activities at home in a structured sort of a way in a daily routine. Okay. And I think if people have any questions, they can please type in the chat box. I'll be happy to take them at the end. Please continue to chat, put them in the chat box if you have any questions. Thank you. Okay, we'll talk a little bit again about types of play. So, exploratory play, and I know this is a little bit more information right now, but I think it's important for you to listen to all of this and understand all of this, because then you can understand at which stage your child is, at which level your child is, and then you take it from there. So if you said we have a 10-year-old child who is maybe on the spectrum, and we said let's teach him pretend play, we can't do that, right? We have to first see, can the child do parallel play, can the child do cooperative play, is the child able to do interactive play, then we can say pretend, because we can't teach a child something that he doesn't have skills for, right? So which is why it's important for me that you understand all these things before we actually jump into the strategies of what can be done. Exploratory play is sort of your, as the name suggests, a time where children explore by manipulating objects. So for example, a lot of children, when they're babies, mouthing objects, मतलब हर चीज को मुंह में डालना, छू के देखना, handling, smelling, rolling, throwing, so banging toys. All of this is exploration. It is the way a child learns how things work. So when they are banging the toy, so instead of a block, instead of stacking a block, if a child keeps on banging, typically speaking, that's part of the exploratory play, because they're learning about the objects and the how to manipulate them. Social play may, we have games and interactions, which is, helps the child initiation and have fun with the parent or the friend or the sibling, have the turn taking bits in there. So this comes under social or interactive play. Functional play is a kind of play that includes any act involving conventional use of an object or a toy. So anything where, their fine motor and gross motor skills are there, attention is there, and they're using the object the way it was designed to be. So for example, building blocks, functional play. Finally, like I said, symbolic is make believe, it's pretend, and it's imaginative, and like for example, using an object for like for example, using a banana as a phone. Children do that, take a banana and make it look like a phone and act like you're talking on a phone. That's pretend play. All right, so that kind of a thing is again looking at the stages and types of play. I want you to understand where your child may be at this point, and then from there on, where do we take them to the next level. So let's talk a little bit about the challenges that we have for children with. I'm particularly focusing here on children on the spectrum. So you may say that, okay, my child has a lot of difficulty with spontaneous play, वो खेल नहीं सकता है अपने आप से, or that there is difficulty and delay in communication, or that there is difficulty and delay in social interaction, or they don't know what pretend play is, they have never done it, and they have restricted and repetitive interests. So for example, they may pick up a toy car, but they are only playing with the wheels of the car. So they're not necessarily taking the car and making it do a race or anything like that. So repetitive and restricted interests like that, or rigidity in activities, that if they play with a certain toy a certain way, they will not be comfortable with changing their strategy or playing in a different way. That causes maybe some problem behaviors to happen. There's a little bit of a rigidity in how they play with toys. And then there is lack of creativity in play. So we know that because the hallmark of autism is, delays in social interaction and restricted and repetitive interests and all of that, we know that they have challenges in actually developing play skills on their own. So when we know that they have challenges in developing play skills on their own, I think it becomes extremely important for us to learn how can we teach them. And so it may not be free play, as I had said before in the beginning, that free play meaning here are some toys, abhi ye khelo, and you take this and play. That's free play, where there are no instructions, you're not telling them what to do, there is no structure behind it, right? That's probably not going to be possible maybe for a child with autism. If that is the case, then we have to find some ways to teach them, but making sure that they get those play skills in their daily routine. This is very important to me. as an educator that it's not something that you would do only on a Saturday or once in a while. When you can, or when you feel like, or when the child is in a good mood, you're doing play. It's not that. There has to be that consistency. There has to be that regularity for the child to benefit and learn from those play skills. Just like any other intervention, right? If you think about any other intervention strategy, you will not benefit, the child will not benefit if you go once a month, correct? We know that we need to go regularly. We know that we have to have consistency. We know that we have to teach children with a regularity. Same thing with play skills. What I'm saying today is not an intervention per se, but what I'm saying is view it like that. Think of 1 or 2 times in the day where you can actually introduce a play routine during the day. Okay. And what would you do in that play routine? We will discuss that. But have that be as a part of a child's daily routine. Maybe in the morning, it's an indoor play routine. Maybe in the evening, it's an outdoor play routine. And you can do so much with an outdoor play routine. And we will discuss that. But ensuring that at least it's done 3 to 4 times in a week as part of your routine, you're going to get the maximum benefit from any kind of a play activity that you do with your child. Okay. Now, today we are going to talk about 4 kinds of plays. I'm going to take you a little bit more into detail. And within this, we will mostly focus a lot on structured play. Because like I said, for children who are maybe nonverbal, who probably don't have the skills yet to play cooperatively and to play on their own, or maybe they have restricted interests and they only like one thing, and there is no independent play skill yet, we have to teach them. And how do we teach them? We teach them through a structured play approach. But I'll show you what sensory play looks like. I'll show you what physical play means. And then we will have I'll share some ideas about that. So sensory play, what is it? You probably know this already. I don't know how many of you are actually aware of this term, or how many of you maybe even do this already for your children at home. And if you do some kind of a sensory play at home, please start typing in the chat box, share what you're doing, share what works for your child, so other parents can, learn from you and benefit from your ideas as well. But what actually is sensory play is any activity that stimulates a young child or any child's sense of touch, smell, taste, sight, and hearing, as well as anything that engages some sort of movement and balance. So what happens is that through sensory play actually really, when you're engaging a child's senses, it is actually creating a lot of activity in the brain. The child is not passively sitting in front of a toy. The child is touching, feeling, tasting, all kinds of things. And I'll show you some examples of what sensory play can look like. Of course, you have to be aware of your child's sensory preferences, or if they have any sensitivities. You would know that. I wouldn't. I'm just saying this overall. But if your child has any particular sensory sensitivities, make sure you speak to a professional like your occupational therapist, or someone where they can customize sort of an idea or a plan for your child. But if you were to just talk about overall, sensory play really helps children's, it supports their cognitive growth, it supports language, it supports gross motor skills, social interaction, and also a child's problem solving skills. And what we in research, what they have found is why sensory play is so important is that one is that it actually helps build nerve connections in the brain, so that the child is able to complete more and more complex activities maybe. It also maybe helps in developing and enhancing the child's memory. It's great to calm an anxious or a frustrated child. Many times we have found that giving a sensory activity sort of calms a child's energy down. Children can learn about attributes like about features of a particular object, like something that's hot, cold, sticky, dry, rough, all those features that are important for you to learn about your world. So the sensory play idea is great in that sense. Sensory play can also be solitary play. If you remember, जहाँ बच्चा अपने आप से खेल रहा है, which is fine. Solitary play में हम sensory ideas को डाल सकते हैं. अब sensory ideas में देखिए, if you see, there are lots of things you can do, and I'll have some pictures that I want to share with you so you get an idea. But you can create like a sensory bin. What is a sensory bin? Taking a tub or a bartan, simply filling a tub or a container with different textures like leaves and rocks and sand for a child to explore. Or you could use like dry rice, beans, sand, anything that has a texture to it, something that the child can feel and discover. In a plastic bin, you can put, for example, beans, and you can hide some little toy cars or something that the child enjoys, something that the child is motivated by. Let them find it. So hide it underneath it, let the child put their hand in and explore. So what is happening is the child may be playing alone, but you're giving them an appropriate way to play with a certain thing while also stimulating their sensory system. There is Play-Doh, which I'm sure a lot of children like and play with. A lot of children like to play with shaving cream. So putting on shaving cream on a table and letting them paint on there, finger painting with colors, actual painting, a balance beam. A lot of parks have balance beams. If not, you could actually put like a masking tape in your own living room and have the child walk on it with 1 foot, 2 foot, like a balancing act. Outside when you go, a sandbox, swings, things like very simply, having the child do a little bit of gardening. And by that, I don't mean going outside, like having a little pot with a few seeds, allowing them to explore that. Even that is a sort of a sensory play, which can stimulate all the child senses. Okay, some ideas. So here is something called a sensory bag. All right, now here what they have done is they've taken a Ziploc bag and put in like a glue and glitter. So for children who don't like to get their hands wet and messy and they have the sensory issue with that, these kind of sensory bags are really good because they're actually able to feel the texture of the glue inside and the glitter without actually having to touch. I don't know if any of you parents have tried this out. In the first one, it's mainly just glue for the child to trace some letters. This could be a great activity for the child to trace with his finger so he can get the feeling. Here they have hidden, like not hidden, but they have put in some toy frogs. So for the child to see, or maybe the child can sort the colors, put all the pink frogs in this corner and all the yellow frogs on that corner and all the green frogs. So you get the picture. So you're putting different colors and having the child, when the child is going to move it like that, that's that sensory activity that we are giving them. Another idea is to actually have a bucket or a tub where you are putting some bath soap and putting some toys where the child can actually take them out. You can have 2 mugs, have them scoop the water, pour the water, various things in which they can be engaged with that particular activity in the appropriate way. So not splashing water outside, but actually playing within the tub. And how do we help them play with that? This Very Hungry Caterpillar bin is actually, it's actually a very good story book called The Very Hungry Caterpillar. It's very, very popular. So what they have done here is that they have made a sensory tub by taking all the objects that were in the storytelling book, and they found like little mini plastic things like ice cream cones and apple and orange and things like that that were in the book, featured in the book, and they have put this. So while they're reading the Hungry Caterpillar book to the child, maybe the child is asked to go get that orange from that bin or get that ice cream cone from that bin. So another way to explore and make the book reading into a wonderful play routine. All right. Now, next is, if you see here, this is what I was saying, like, rajma ke beans, yeah, any kind of beans ko dal ke, they have put like all these trucks. So this is a child. One thing I must mention here, that any activity that you do or plan for, whether it's sensory or anything else, you have to ensure that you follow the child's lead. Okay. So every child has their own choices and their own preferences and their own likes and dislikes. So what would make a play routine very effective is if you followed the child's interest. Instead of saying that here is a bin with all the rajma and I'm going to just put here balls inside it and let the child find it. Versus finding out if the child really likes to play with cars, then put the cars. If the child likes to play with balls, put the balls. If the child here likes to play with all these dump trucks, right? So they've put the dump trucks, now he's going to dump it and, just play in that area. So that kind of a thing, you have to always be mindful of remembering that what the child truly likes to do, what your child likes to do. And those interests may change, they may not stay the same, but you have to always be mindful of that. Here they have put in like rice, They've put a big spoon, and I think you can ask the child to put 5 scoops in the yellow one, 3 scoops in the blue one, or whatever. Here they have again one big bartan, one big utensil, and they have all these play animals in the rice. Here they have spiders in the rice. So again, it's what the child likes, where you think your child is going to be really motivated. Ki if this is sensory time, he's going to want to actually go there. So that thing you have to sort of keep in mind. Okay. Now here in a cardboard box, what they have done is they have put like sand, and they have put like little stones here, pebbles. And what have they done here is put again construction vehicles. So for this child who loves to do play with construction vehicles, or maybe only plays with the wheels of the construction vehicle, what would be nice is if you put these construction vehicles in the sand and do some kind of a game with it, some kind of an activity with it. Here in this, they have put these small blue pebbles, and they've put water, and they've made it like a sea world kind of a thing, ocean play, right? So again, for this child must love sea animals, so you can go with that kind of a theme. So again, if you had to just summarize about sensory play, is that there are so many ideas, there are so many ways in which we can think about how do we stimulate our child's all 5 senses is really the bottom line. And figuring out activities that you can plan for, create, and then put them in your daily routine. Going back to the daily routine, you could put like a sensory activity every other day in your schedule, so the child has an opportunity, is exposed to doing that. If not every day, you can do every other day. Okay. Next one comes is we will talk about physical play. What is physical play? You obviously understand that it's all about being able to go play outside using your gross motor skills. So what it does is that helps in facilitating gross motor development, child's balance, coordination. All of these skills we can teach a child through physical play. Of course, here also I would say that you would have to check with your doctor or therapist to make sure that your child doesn't have any limitations, physical limitations when it comes to any kind of a physical play. But we know that physical play is not just important for children with disabilities, it's important for all of us. It's important for all children. It really reduces the risk of all kinds of health issues, all kinds of medical issues. But apart from that, what physical play does for our children with special needs, our children who are on the spectrum, is that it helps them develop their social skills, right? It encourages the independence. So when you go out and the child is able to play on the swing or the slide, or with a friend with the ball, you are able to teach, you're able to help the child navigate and become more and more independent. It can also improve the child's sleep and how the child feels about himself. Now there are so many things that can be done. All these things I'm sure you do with your children already: playing hide and seek, going to the park, swing, basic yoga postures, obstacle course, just walking, dancing. Anything that stimulates, anything that helps a child become more physically active, any kind of a game. And this is, right now I'm only talking about mostly the things that you can do with your child. Eventually this goes into being able to play with children of his or her own age, right? So being able to play badminton, for example, but for that, first we have to ensure that there's a routine of physical play in the day where the child knows what is to be done. So when you start with basically playing hide and seek at home, you're working on eye contact, you're talking to the child, there's language there, there's turn taking there. So when you start this at home, then it can be generalized to outside of the home. It can be generalized to friends, it can be generalized to school, it can be generalized to in the society. There may be other children that the child can play with. So physical play, as obviously we all know, is very, very important, but it can also sometimes get ignored. If we don't think about it from a specifically developing play skills point of view, it can get ignored. I know everybody is busy, I know everybody has difficult and hectic lives, but this one thing which is very easily available can do a lot of this, help the child in a lot of these skills. Okay. All right. So now we're going to talk about structured play and what that means, and how can we help our children at home with certain activities that can lead to them being able to eventually have independent play skills, because that's our purpose. Our purpose is that at some point the child should be able to engage himself or herself for 5 to 10 minutes in an appropriate play activity, correct? 5 to 10 minutes or 15 minutes, whatever, depending on the child's age. So what is structured play? You might say that, well, what if my child can't play or doesn't know how to play with toys, or only has restrictive behaviors, or plays inappropriately, like he will only bang the blocks, or he will only play with the wheels of the car, or he will do the puzzle in like an inappropriate way and have problem behaviors. What do we do then? So you may be asking this question to me right now, even though I can't see you, and I don't know what questions are coming up in the chat box, but maybe this is one of the questions that you have. And so in this situation where we know that the child doesn't have a lot of play skills on their own, we are going to go in with a structured play approach where we teach them. Now this is called play with a purpose. Here our purpose is going to be to teach a specific skill or a specific action or a specific activity to our child. All right. This is going to be parent led. So you are going to decide what that activity is going to be. It will be interactive. It should take up the child's interest. So for example, if you decide that you want the child to learn a particular puzzle, right? So that's parent led. You have decided that you're going to teach him to have skills to play with the puzzle on his or her own. But where the child's interest can come in is what kind of puzzle do you put in front of him? So if the child loves trains, you would use a train puzzle. If the child loves fruits, you would use fruit puzzle. Like it depends on the child's, again, interest and motivation. Based on that only are we going to pick an activity, but you're going to structure it. Okay. I hope that makes sense, that you're going to structure that activity in a way that it has a purpose. So you have a target in mind. You want the child to learn to play with this 10-piece puzzle on their own, where right now maybe the level is that they take a puzzle piece and they keep on staring at it, maybe. Okay, maybe they just do this and then they go away, or they take the piece and they throw it, or they something like that, where there isn't appropriate play, or maybe they put in one piece and then they run away. So the actual puzzle activity is not getting completed. So you have now a target that you want him or her to learn to complete this puzzle and independently, so that when the time comes, you want to be able to say it's puzzle time, and the child should be able to pick up the puzzle, entire puzzle, do it without your prompting. So in structured play, what happens is that we can help teach the child some new skills, and ultimately our goal is that every child should have some independent play skills. By independent play skills, I mean the ability to spend 5 to 10 minutes playing with a particular toy or an object without any instruction, without mama or papa saying aise karo, aise mat karo, ab dalo, mat dalo. Because what is play? Play has to give the child a lot of joy. Play has to give the child a lot of relaxation. So we first teach them. In the structured play approach, we will teach them. There will be instructions initially, but eventually the child should be able to independently have some play skills. Okay. Now, what do we do here? Like I said, the first two things I'm going to touch upon today, because I know we don't have a whole lot of time. So this topic cannot be covered in one session. I was just sharing, Harshali and we were talking that this is such a big topic that I can only give you a little bit of an overview today. But what I want to focus on today is if you have a child who does not have skills yet, and you want to give them start with some skills, let's go with 2 levels. Okay, in structured play, we're going to teach some basic, we're going to talk about teaching some very basic play skills. Level 1 is our solitary play. If you remember, in solitary play, typically children just play on their own with a particular object. There is nobody else involved. But in structured play, we will teach them that. Let's use that. Second is we will see how we can work on teaching them parallel play as well. So what is level 1 is we are going to work on toy manipulation. That means the goal here is to teach the child to imitate actions with toys. This particular skill is needed for more complex play. right? If a child doesn't know how to manipulate toys and how to imitate certain actions, which is solitary, how will they get to the pretend play level? Pretend play is our last level, if you remember. If we want our child to get to the pretend play level, we have to start with this very basic. Okay, so we have two options here. We do one-step manipulation, two steps manipulation. What is one-step manipulation? Is the child imitating one step at a time. So you model, you show them the action, and the child has to copy you, imitate you, and do that action. So here you're sitting with the child face to face, and you will be, for example, you have those shape sorters where you can put like shapes inside, andar dal sakte hain alag alag shapes. It's like a puzzle, but it's like a shape sorter in a matching kind of a way. So you put one shape and you say do this, or you can say put square in, depending on the child's level, and the child has to do that. Or rolling the car, you roll the car, then the child rolls the car. So there's a lot of copying and imitation happening. You have a doll, you brush the doll's hair and say brush her hair, and the child brushes her hair. Or you do this and say do this, and the child copies you. Rolling a ball and the child rolls it back to you. Taking a stuffed animal, maybe a bear, and making the bear jump and say, ooh, jump, jump. And the child has to make the bear jump. Or putting one puzzle piece in and the child puts the other one in. This is just one step. So I am doing one step, the child is doing the same step. There is copying, there is instruction following, and here we are teaching the child the basics of how do we play with toys. It's a basic toy play, toy manipulation skill. Okay. Second set is two-step. As the name suggests, it's basically teaches the child sequence of two steps, right? So for example, you would again show the action and the child has to imitate you and the child has to do that action. So it could be simply, you are feeding the doll and putting the doll to bed, two actions. Khana khilaya, fir doll so gayi, two actions. You're seeing how this is going to lead up to our level of pretend play that we want the child to do, correct? But first we may have to teach them some imitation. We may have to teach them some skills to be able to get to that pretend play level. You could have, you could put the doll in a car and then roll the car. So, gaadi mein baith gayi doll and then chalo, school jayenge, something like that, where you're also creating a story, of what you're doing. But the child has to copy both of your steps. So one step ke baad hum two steps pe jayenge. What will two steps do? It actually teaches the child a sequence of actions, right? So if a child doesn't know automatically how to, we are going to teach. And even in solitary play, other activities that can come are coloring, painting, playing with water. So putting water in a tub and putting some toys in there, even being able to, let's say, wash the doll, putting a doll in the tub and saying wash the doll, or Play-Doh or puzzles. All these things are in solitary play, and we can start with teaching the child how to manipulate a particular object in the right way, in the appropriate way. So when we have a doll, we can do so many things with the doll: feed, sleep, the doll can go to school, the doll can go to the doctor. There's endless options for us to work on. But based on the child's level and the child's age, we will figure out what we need to, what kind of play activity do we have to set up. So then level 2 comes once the child is already doing this well, then we work on parallel play. Parallel play, if you remember, is two children sitting next to each other, near each other, if not next to each other, they can be near in the same room. This is very important skill because it teaches our child to share the space with another child. To be able to make friends, being able to do parallel play is very, very important. Otherwise, if they don't have this skill and we don't teach them this skill, then you can be going into a park and have a child can have a problem behavior, have a temper tantrum because they don't know how to share that space with another child. Okay, so what you can do is, in this, any activity you do, for example, we can take coloring as an activity. And let's say that your child is very motivated and loves the Spider-Man, let's say, or Chota Bheem, or Peppa Pig, or any character, let's just say. We would get a coloring book that is motivating, correct, to the child. And you would have to pay two sets of the materials and do it together. So you are coloring, the child is coloring. So you're coloring side by side. That's parallel play. And you may not be necessarily interacting a whole lot with the child, or you may be interacting. Remember to reinforce the child when they play appropriately. This is also very, very important. So for example, in the 1-step, 2-step, when you're teaching that, when your child is able to copy you and does that particular action that you are asking him or her to do, make sure to reinforce them. Because when you reinforce behavior that you want them to be doing, that behavior is going to come back. So the good behavior is going to come again and again, provided you provide them with that reinforcement. Okay, so that was our thing about how do we teach basic play skills. I hope this you remember. I hope this is clear for you, where we talk about solitary play and parallel play. We have to develop these skills during your play routines, during your daily routines, where I said a morning routine and an afternoon routine. Please make sure to pick activities where you can do something in the morning, do something in the afternoon, where you are teaching your child either solitary play skills or parallel play skills. And then our cooperative play and pretend play comes much later, because they need a lot of complex skills. So this is our base. This is our foundation. Once we set this up, then we can go to the next level. Okay. Now, how do we structure a play activity? We talked about what kinds of activities might there be. How do you structure? So structured play, structured games are activities that have a clear goal and an end. मतलब end होना है उसका clear. It can't be free. It can't be just you're just playing. Not like that. So a puzzle is an example. A book is an example. A matching game is an example where there is a clear end. So only 5 pieces of puzzle, activity done. That's a good structured play activity. Okay. Again, going back to make sure you use your child's interest. Very, very, very important. I cannot emphasize this enough. Follow your child's lead. By that, I mean, understand. First, for that, you have to observe. If you don't know your child's likes or dislikes, or what is something that he just loves to do, if you know that, you follow that lead. The more you follow what the child likes to do, the more likely he's going to be wanting to play with you. Okay, his motivation levels are going to be very different when it is something of his interest. So a child I remember I worked with some time ago who loved Thomas the Tank Engine. Okay, that American character. When we would do activities with him, we did a lot of things in the beginning. Okay, this is all in the teaching phase. In the beginning, we did a lot of Thomas themed puzzles, coloring books, all kinds of activities where Thomas the Tank Engine was there. So we knew that the child was interested. That helped us build a relationship with our child, because he saw us as fun. You know, the child has to see you as fun. This is not about teaching. This is not about instruction that you must do. This is about fun. This should feel good to you and the child, and there has to be that joy. So pick up in this teaching phase, in the structured, when you start, pick up the things that your child most likely is going to be interested in, and take it from there. And what activities can he do? So for example, if he's able to do certain puzzles well, start there. If he's able to do certain matching games well, start there. Using simple language, so we are not using too much of language, so the child is independently able to actually do the activity. We can also use a visual schedule. A lot of children benefit from having the entire play routine on a visual schedule. So it could be like it could be very simple, like a puzzle, and you're showing first you do the puzzle, then you do a shape sorter, and then you're done. So having some kind of a visual cue can help the child understand what is expected of them. Initially keeping the play routine short, keep it 5 minutes, 10 minutes, keep it to the point that it's exciting and fun for the child. So it shouldn't become half an hour of play in the beginning, because the child may lose interest, and you will probably end up having more problem behaviors than fun. So keep it to his level, and keep it enough that he's able to enjoy, and then you are done. So the play activity or the play routine is done. And of course, if there is inappropriate play that happens while you're teaching, you have to prompt. You have to make sure that the child is redirected into something else, and again teaching them again and again to play appropriately. And gradually you have to reduce your prompts. By prompts, I mean support, like a physical prompt or a verbal prompt. You have to gradually reduce, because ultimately what is our goal? Our goal is that We want our child to have independent play skills, right? So we are starting with this very structured way of teaching. Our eventual goal is that the structure goes away, but the child has the skills to play. Okay, does that make sense? So the skills are very, very important for them to learn. Some examples of what could be in a structured play activity, like this one is a great sort of a shape puzzle kind of a thing where it has a clear end, and this could be something you can introduce or you can start teaching your child. Matching puzzles, these kind of puzzles which are very simple but again have a start point and an end point. This another matching game, again this is, the options are endless, and of course they totally depend on your child's age. How old is the child, what their level is, and what kinds of games have they been exposed to so far, what kinds of play routines have they been exposed to so far. So you will have to see that accordingly and pick up some ideas from today's session. So we are going to briefly talk about what is pretend play. We don't have enough time to go deep into it, but teaching pretend play can be a session on its own. By itself, we can talk about how do we teach a child to do pretend play. But again, when children, act out real world situations, take on different roles, different characters. If you remember, we all have done this play, right? We all have become the teacher at some point, or we all have had a kitchen in our house where we have cooked with our chote chote bartan, right? So that's all pretend play. That can be structured or unstructured. um, so we can actually have a way, a script, we can develop a script for a child to learn how to do pretend play in the kitchen, for example. If playing mummy papa khel rahe hain aur kitchen mein hai kaam, so we can have a script around that. Or let's say the child wants to become a doctor, the script is that he's the doctor. We can actually have a script around if the child doesn't know how to, so there we can structure it also with a play script. A play script can help a child greatly sort of sequence what needs to be done, what has to be done. And again, we start with a structure and eventually take that out, and the child should be able to independently have a pretend play sort of an activity with one of their friends or their sibling. Now, various ways in which pretend play can be done, even for young children, is again, like I said, having dolls and kitchen items and pretending to cook, pretending to feed, going to the doctor, pretending that one of the teddy bears is sick, you become the doctor. The ideas are endless, and you can use a lot of your household objects to actually to have this kind of a play. It doesn't need to be that you have to buy things. It doesn't have to be that you have to have fancy toys. It's a lot of it is creativity on your part. How can you see what your child might enjoy and create a routine around it? Okay. And so like I said, if your child is at this level maybe of being able to do some pretend play, but there is some struggle, I think you can write down some scenarios. You can make a play script, something like a social story where you have a script around what happens in this play routine, and help them, teach them, practice with them, so that when they have a friend over or when they go to a friend's house, they know certain skills of what needs to be done after what. So that's just an example. But this is, I remember like children love to have tents in the house. So you take a bed sheet and make a tent out of it, and there you can pretend to go camping. So you can have a lot of those stories where you think your child might enjoy. Some children would love the idea of going for a camp in a forest, for example. You take a torchlight, like you can make that into a pretend play scene and start teaching your child how they can navigate that pretend play in case that is difficult for them. And this is where the play script idea, developing a playbook with visuals maybe even, would be really beneficial for some children. Finally, we are going to talk about board games. I know for older kids and children who are have more sort of skills, when a child has basic imitation skills, basic language skills, they are able to follow basic instructions, they're able to follow a visual schedule, then we can think about teaching them board games. Now, board games can be, n number of board games can be used. Connect Four, Ludo, Snakes and Ladder. Why are board games so important is because they teach children rules. They teach a child turn taking. They teach a child how to function as a part of a team, right? When you play, 4 children playing together or 3 adults and 1 child playing together is a team. there's a lot of learning that happens in a board game. It's very simple. Lagta hai ki you're just playing a game, but tons of learning is happening within that routine, right? Being able to, if you lose, being able to handle that emotion of loss, and learning to be a good sport, coping with defeat. A lot of children have difficulty, emotionally when they lose. Now, if you had a weekly board game session at night, at your home as a family, this would be a great way to teach your child so many of these skills. But again, if you have worked on the solitary play and the parallel play and things like that, again, depends totally on where your child is and what their level is. But I just want to quickly touch upon some basic instructions for if you are teaching your child board games or interested in teaching because they are at that level. Have a way to explain the rules of the game first. You could explain the rules through visuals as well. Having a visual cue would help a child with autism a lot to understand what is expected, have the rules. And again, have a simple game. Start with a simple game that can be maybe easily modified. Put it on your schedule. Again, you could have a Saturday night 5-10 minutes of board games. It could be a simple like Ludo, nothing fancy, but enough to you have to remember to match the game to the child's skill level. Whatever their skill level is, uske hisab se you have to pick up the game. So it doesn't matter what the game is. What matters is that the child is able to understand the rules and the child is able to follow through a small game. So it could be 10 minutes only. That if you do consistently and with regularity, and then you can change up the games. After 4-5 weeks, you can get in a new game, and then this could become more and more complex. This in teaching board games, I know the biggest challenge that parents oftentimes face is that patience, and for the child to not have the ability to wait their turn, right? Waiting a turn is a very big problem. You have to have the patience for everybody to go through and the turn to come back to you. So there are little things we can do to teach children this also. But again, this is another one of those where, another session can be done on these, cooperative, interactive, pretend and board games kind of games that I couldn't touch upon today because we just don't have that much time, right? So that. Now, overall, before we wrap up, I just want to summarize how do you play with your child? So let's forget about solitary, cooperative, pretend, forget all those tags, all those definitions, just usko side mein rakh dijiye. Just think about, if you want to play with your child, what would you do? What should you do? I would suggest first thing is to observe your child and see what they like to do when they are not being directed by an adult. मतलब अगर कोई एडल्ट उनको कुछ करने के लिए नहीं बोलता है, तब वो क्या करते हैं, किन चीजों में उनका इंटरेस्ट जाता है. ये नहीं कि हमेशा हम बोल रहे हैं डू दिस, इसको मत करो, अब ये खेलो. नॉट दैट. Without your presence, observe, maybe with their age friends or maybe with their siblings, what kinds of activities do they like to do when they're by themselves. Motor activities that they like, jumping, running, climbing, what is it. Visuals में क्या पसंद है, trains, books, TV, computer. Find out when you're not present what kind of things do they enjoy. Auditory, music, singing. Again, I'm going back with the senses. Think about various different options that you have to see to understand what your child likes. Then you would select the toys. Again, going back to the simple thing hai ki you have to select a toy that is going to be interesting to the child. It should match your child's motor skills, any sensory challenges that they have, and again, their developmental ability, correct? So it's difficult for me to say what kinds of toys. It totally depends on the child and you. But finding out the right kind of toy is a great way to set you up for success. Okay. Now, embedding, you can, when you're playing, when you start to play, remember to not forget to embed language into playtime routine. Meaning, we can really work a lot on the child's language skills when we are in a play routine. So for example, you are taking, maybe there's a play set and you have a little animal going down the slide. So you say, wee, going down the slide, wee, going down the slide. Adding that language, helping the child be exposed exposed to different words, different vocabulary words, is a great way to have fun and be thinking about how can we introduce or facilitate more language in the child. Um, so modeling language, this is the same thing. Maybe the child says something, spontaneously, a word. If your child is nonverbal, maybe they make a sound. Making sure that you reciprocate that, repeat that sound, expand on that sound, give the child a word. So making sure that language is always the central part of a play routine when you're playing with them. Reinforcing language, of course, always making sure that you give them immediate reinforcement, specific praise like great job taking a turn, excellent, high five, you played with the ball so well. Something that tells the child that this is the appropriate way to play, or this is the appropriate way to be. That's why I'm getting this reinforcement for my mom and dad. Then written scripts, like I said, in certain cases, even to increase the child's language, you may be able to have a play script or have some cues. So for example, your turn, simply having a cue for a child to know that it's their turn could be a way for them to play more independently with that game. Finally, even video models. So you could use the child watching a particular game, some another child playing or something like that, where a video can become a model for them to learn. So not only that you're showing them how to play with certain things, watching it on video also sometimes can help, especially the older children. Also remember that adults, us parents, uncles and aunts and dadis and dadas, we can be great play partners. Play partner ka kya matlab hai? It is actually easy to teach children play skills with an adult first before bringing in another child. Okay, because what happens is that with adults, we are more predictable, we are going to be less demanding than children of their age. And so for that, children with social impairments, children with lack of play skills may easily play with you and I first, and may have some problem behaviors with children of their own age. So that's why the structured play we are teaching the children certain skills, and it's easier for the child to also allow you in their personal space, learn certain skills, and then we introduce a peer. We start to bring them to other children to play with, or have other children come home to play with them, right? So if you are just starting this, your child is young, or you're not sure, I think basic simple cause and effect toys, like the jack and the hammer kind of a toy is a great one for the child to know cause and effect. Or social play. Social play is usually where we are able to build a rapport with the child, build a bond with the child. So things like tickle games, a lot of children 8, 9, 10 years stuck love having this tickle game key. I'm going to count till 3, then I'm going to tickle you. There you are able to have that rapport. It's one-on-one, it's interactive, and the child can request you for more. There's tickle games, catch games, tag, hide and seek, blowing bubbles, sensory play, physical play. These are all great ideas to start with, where there aren't high demands on the child. So there would be less problem behaviors. We would just be having fun. And then next step is working on that structured play that we talked about. Right? Structured play, we talked about, we are teaching the child certain specific skills in order to get them to the higher levels of play, such as pretend play. And ultimately, what we want is that we want this to be for the child to be able to independently play or have some independent leisure skills, correct? So here again, eventually we can have a schedule, a visual schedule, where we can have the child's play routines put in, so the child knows what is to come. If they did a math activity and then there's a play routine or something like that, where the play routine is structured in the day in a way. Okay. And then, of course, address any motor issues that you may have with your child with any professional help, like a doctor or a PT or a OT. Some children can have some muscle limitations, joint issues, or breathing difficulties, or poor balance. So it's always important to know what your child's challenges are and work with that. And then we know that children with autism respond really well to routine and structure. right? So this is why I keep saying that try to follow a consistent routine of engaging in a play behavior. It is not about once a month, it is about every day, if not every day, every other day. The more you play, the more the child gains. The more you play, the more there is development happening, really. And there is no harm to playing. It's not like you can ever play too much. So have a schedule, have a visual schedule, and use methods that work best with your child. So routine boards, visual schedules, verbal, whatever works for your child based on their age and their ability, is something you must consider. Okay. And I think as a summary is, I just want to say again, repeat that play is an important aspect of learning for all children, typical, neurotypical, disability, doesn't matter. But in particular for children with autism, we have discussed why it is important for us to be able to teach them and start working on that as a skill. And we can think about specific play routines to help children learn social skills. We have talked about that. Again, setting aside some time each day for play activity to help your child, in the areas of motor, language, communication. And finally, play routines can really help you, bond as a family. Like I said, even if you did nothing, didn't do any structured play, even if you did some of those social play routines every day, subhe sham, if you do that, you will start to see that how you connect with your child changes. The child's eye contact, the child's response to you, the child's requesting, it changes. Because if the child is motivated to have fun, the learning is going to come easier, versus if you're going to force the child to do certain things. So this is why play is so natural, play is so everyday, play is available for everybody. And again, like I said, it's not like you have to buy special things or special toys. There's a lot you can do within your homes to encourage, as long as you today have understood the value and the importance and the benefits, most importantly, of play for children with autism. I am confident that you will find those creative ways to introduce more play activities in your child. So even if you're doing a little bit, increase that. If you're doing nothing, start. That's really my key message today for you. Some suggested play activities, these are, very obvious, simple outdoor things that all of us can do, all of us have available: chalk, jump rope, kites. There's a lot you can do when you're playing with the child together. Like I said, this is that whole parallel play, you're doing things together to teach them. There are certain things indoor, puzzles, water play, sand play, play-doh. The list you can see goes on and on. Storytelling, reading books, a lot of play routines that you can do to really stimulate your child's development in the best possible way. And I think last but not the least, another quote I have is that children need the freedom and time to play. It's not a luxury, it's a necessity. Now think that for a second. How many of us think that play is a necessity? How many of us think कि play तो बहुत जरूरी है? नहीं सोचते हैं, right? We don't think that play is important. This is why I thought this session was so important. And this is why, I'm so happy that all of you are here today. And I'm so thankful that all of you have taken the time to actually sit through a session and listen to this. Because this is not about a luxury. It's not about that. Just remember that play is a necessity for all children of all ages and all kinds of children. But when we particularly talk about children with any kind of disabilities, play always gets sidelined. हम भूल जाते हैं कि this child is a child, correct? And this child needs to play. This we forget. So in all the interventions and therapies, which are really important, I know I'm an educator, this is my job, but I find it very sad that play as a thing becomes very casual. So let's not do that. Let's think about ways in which within your family structures, within your resources, within your child's ability and age, what are the ways in which, from what you heard today, what ideas can you take and start to implement them from today? Because children need the freedom and time to play. So we have to. So that's why we have to put it in a schedule. Otherwise, we'll forget. Otherwise, week by week, I know life gets very difficult. And you may probably go out, they may probably go out to the park once a month. So if we put it in a daily routine, as if you're doing an intervention, you would take that 15 minutes in the morning, take that 15 minutes in the evening, and before you know it, that kind of a routine becomes set for the child as well, and they start to enjoy. And you will notice the kind of learning that is happening, within the session, within the play routine. And you will see, all the skills that I talked about in the beginning, right? Eye contact, joint attention, responding, initiation, turn taking. You will start to see that there are so many opportunities for you as a parent or a family member to expose the child to that through just a play routine. I don't like the word just, because in my opinion, play is way more than that. But that's the end of our session. I want to really thank you all for being here today. My information is all there, my email, my WhatsApp number, my website. If you have any time you would like to connect with me, share any thoughts or ideas or questions, I'm very, very happy to do that. And I think we are good on time as well, right, Harshali?
Yes, we have. I mean, generally have lot of time. No problem of time issue on in our sessions. So this is the wonderful insight. I mean, I can read the parents' comments also. They have got very good information, very insightful session.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Yes. Somebody asking your contact info. I have posted it already.
Okay, great.
I'll
Thank you.
post it. I'll post it in group as well. Any questions? I mean, actually, they have asked many questions initially, but you have answered them already.
Oh, great. That's wonderful.
So,
How did that happen, Harshali?
yeah, because I was going through all the questions. Now you have already answered all the questions. Still, if anybody has anything, please raise the hand. I will unmute you. Yes, they are saying, yes, ma'am, you covered many areas.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you so much. I tried to do my best to cover as much as I could in this 1.5 hour session. And like I was telling Harshali that, when I was preparing this content, I thought this cannot be done in one session. There's so much to share. There is so much to talk about that we could literally do a part 2 of play skills, That's kind of how
We will do it. I mean, why not? We will do it shortly. We will part 2 of play skill. Okay, some I can see hand raised. Okay, Sundar Swami, you can unmute and ask.
Yeah, good evening, Dr. Shivani.
Good evening.
Thanks for the wonderful insights. I have 2 sons, and the younger one is on the spectrum, and of course, followed by ADHD. And the elder one is CP. But however, he's fine. He's almost 13 years old, and he's fine. He's quite independent. But there are some, Air Force, he's wearing Air Force for him to walk. And since you've been in this healthcare for almost 2.5 decades, I want to ask you that as parents like us, because my wife is a homemaker and right now I'm working from home, every day we have to be at them, because being a parent of a atypical child is not easy, especially when the first one. So we went through quite a lot of therapies for the first one. Almost now the physiotherapy is still on for the 11th year. However, for the second one, we are not getting, I live in Mumbai, and we are not getting good behavioral, therapists. Only the occupational therapists are there. So I want to ask you is that, apart from whatever you've shared in this presentation, yes, we are trying, but, in Mumbai, the houses are not very big, and, there are a lot of restrictions, whatever we try to, and because of this lockdown also, things are getting worse. So if you can share some insights in a very small, as to how to make them behave socially much more amicably, because what happens, the hyperness is very high because your screen time has increased and outdoor playground has stopped. So while you've spoken about play and constructive play and all, and I'm really appreciate it, because you've given various layers to each and every one of them. And I didn't know that there are so many facets which have been, helping my child. So if you can just help us how to cope up when outdoor play is missing, what do we do to contain his behavior?
That's a very good question, and I think that's a very good concern you have. I'm sure a lot of parents listening to our share that as well with you, especially with lockdown. We know that things are just not the way they were before. When you don't have enough space and then you can't go outside and play. What I would suggest is again going back to the routine of how to cope up. I think if there are activities that you can introduce in the day-to-day routine, which is physical play, but without having the need to go outside. For example, so I'll give you an example of something that we work with one child in the US. This may not apply to you, and I'm not suggesting that you have to go and buy something, but I'm just saying somewhere you have to be creative, maybe about what can work and what can be done in the house. So, for example, with this kid, he really needed a lot of this stimulation, physical, and it used to help him in his learning. We knew that when we were doing sessions, intervention with the child, that if we gave him frequent breaks where he could have his trampoline time, those small trampoline the parents had in the house, where he could jump. So we had a routine structure where after every two intervention strategies that we worked on, he would get a few minutes of break time. And by break, he knew he was going to go jump on the trampoline for 1 minute or whatever that time was. We would set up timer where it was free play for him. That was free physical play, right? It was him, having the ability to regulate his own emotions. And when we put that in the structure of the day, he knew after every 2 to 3 activities, he would get that break. His behaviors went down because he knew what was coming. And that was something that was truly motivating to him. So I'm not suggesting that you have to go buy equipment, but what I'm suggesting is, or thinking about maybe what might work is finding activities that can be done in the living room or on the terrace if you have a terrace, maybe setting up some kind of a physical obstacle course, some kind of a play thing on the terrace if you have it, if not in the balcony, if not in the living room. Like I was saying, have that masking tape and have a structure where the child has to maybe jump 3 times and jump over the masking tape or something like that. Does that make sense? Like converting your house into a little play area, again depending on what works for your child and what does he like to do. So I know it's hard, and I know it must be really hard right now for all of you parents to be just at home and with no ability to really go out, and the children must be frustrated as well because everything online is actually exhausting. It's exhausting for adults, and I'm sure it's exhausting for children as well. So I'm not sure if I answered your question or not, but I would say, think about your daily routine. And if you just think about putting in physical activity as a routine, right, as an idea, and having some, again, I don't want to say online movement classes or online yoga classes, but even yoga at home for some time, some physical activities like that could be planned out for the child. So I don't know if any other parent has tried something in these days, and if any ideas have come up that might help Sundarji. I hope I answered your questions.
Yes, he's saying you have answered.
Okay, great.
Oh my
Thanks.
goodness. Yeah. Next, Rekha Hariharan, you can unmute and ask your question.
Yes, ma'am. So one thing is like games like run and catch or something like that. The child plays with parents, but when we go out and try to generalize this with other kids, the child is lost.
Yeah.
For example, we also try game like I'm bowling, he's just batting. He understands the concept, but the same thing when we try and go out play with the other kid, he's like lost.
Yeah. So he's not yet generalized the skill. He's learned the skill, but generalization usually takes time. I would suggest that you continue to work on the skill itself. Like keep teaching him the skill even though he has learned. Generalization will come. It will happen. It only happens with consistency. So keep doing that. Second idea I have is, if does he have a sibling?
No, ma'am.
Okay. If not a sibling would have been a great way for the adults to move out and the sibling to do the same teaching. if not a sibling, if there is a way you can find maybe a cousin or somebody in the colony who's about slightly older than him, not very old, but let's say your child is 5, somebody like a 10-year-old, who you can have some structured play sessions with. Try with one kid, see if that works out, and then the generalization will happen to other children. But usually generalization is hard. It does take time. But if you have taught him this, I applaud you for that. Continue to do the work that you're doing, and don't stop it until he's generalized it. Because if you stop it now, then he'll forget the skills. So I would say, if there is a possibility to arrange a play date, you know what a play date might be like. I said, a child in your colony who's slightly older, and you would maybe just have them, invite them to play with him, and you're showing them the skills, and the child does the same. So without you, so you would have to fade yourself out and have the peer. So it's not exactly a peer, but it's not exactly an adult. Does that make sense?
Yes, ma'am. Someone who could understand the child and little bit cooperate.
Slightly older, where you can say, Dekho, we are trying to teach him this, and you come once in a while, maybe every Saturday you come for like half an hour, and we do this game, we play with, thing like that. So if there's something like that, would be greatly helpful. That's why I said either a sibling or a cousin, but someone slightly older, because we can't have him generalize it with a peer right now, because he's not generalized it with anybody. So a slightly older kid would be able to teaching still, but it gets into the generalization phase faster than just mama and papa. Yeah?
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, Hina Shah, you can unmute and ask your question.
Hello.
Hello.
Madam.
Yes.
Hello. Can you hear me?
There's a bit of echo on your side.
मेरा son 14 years का है. And actually he's very good in every way, but the problem is वो बहुत addicted है मोबाइल से. पूरा दिन मतलब वो मोबाइल पे गेम खेलता रहता है, या फिर लाइक तारक मेहता का उल्टा चश्मा ऐसे पूरा देखता रहता है. उसको बहुत अच्छा लगता है तारक मेहता का उल्टा चश्मा देखना, लेकिन वो मतलब फिजिकल एक्टिविटीज में और मतलब बहुत ही कम इन्वॉल्व रहता है. तो मोबाइल को किस तरह से मतलब छुड़वाया जाए, वो बहुत बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है.
वो आई थिंक वो आदत जब पड़ जाती है बच्चों को, स्पेशली मोबाइल की. आई हियर दिस क्वेश्चन अ लॉट फ्रॉम अ लॉट ऑफ पेरेंट्स, एंड all parents, I think all of us are sort of, I feel, addicted to the social media and the screen, right? So for your child, if he enjoys something, I think he's doing that. I think one way could be do you involve him, or one way could be is to involve him in more of the day-to-day chores in the house, day-to-day activities. Does he do things in the house?
Yes, but
जैसे कि टेबल सेट करना, खाने के बाद डिशेस उठा के रख देना, पौधों को पानी देना. देयर आर सम फंक्शनल स्किल्स जो हर बच्चे को होनी चाहिए, हर बच्चे ने करनी चाहिए. अगर आप उसको और घर के कामों में, आई शुडंट से घर के काम, पर घर के रूटीन्स में अगर उसको और इन्वॉल्व करें, ठीक है, तो उससे उसका जो एक तो सेट फाउंडेशन अच्छा बनता है. अब ये जो प्रॉब्लम बिहेवियर आ गया है, ये एक प्रॉब्लम बिहेवियर बन चुका है कि उसको सिर्फ एक ही चीज पसंद आ रही है और वो उसी चीज को बार बार करना चाहता है. अब उसको हमें थोड़ा प्रॉब्लम बिहेवियर के जैसे उसको एड्रेस करना पड़ेगा. या तो आप उसको सर्टेन टाइम्स पे ही देंगे, ठीक है, उसको आपको एक्सपेक्टेशन बताना पड़ेगा कि आपको शाम के 5 से 6 के बीच में ही मिलेगा, दिन में और कहीं टाइम पे नहीं मिलेगा. एक बिहेवियरल एक्सपेक्टेशन आपको बनाना पड़ेगा, है ना. तो रूल्स बनाने हैं और वो रूल्स उसको सिखाने पड़ेंगे. शुरुआत में तो आपको तकलीफ होगी, बिकॉज उसको पसंद नहीं आएंगे वो रूल्स, और वो उन रूल्स को फॉलो नहीं करना चाहेगा क्योंकि उसको आदत पड़ चुकी है. बट आपको अगर वो दिन में मान लीजिए 5 घंटे देखता है, जस्ट मैं ऐसे ही बोल रही हूँ, मान लीजिए 5 घंटा देखता है, तो उसका हमें 2 घंटे तक ही देखने देना है, फिर 2 से 1, और मतलब उसको कम करनी है, उसको पूरी तरह बंद नहीं करने देना है, लेकिन उसको आपको मैनेज ऐसे करना है. शेड्यूल अगर आप बनाते हैं, उसका कोई विजुअल शेड्यूल है, तो उसमें आप डाल दीजिए कि 5 to 6 कंप्यूटर टाइम या 5 to 6 फोन टाइम, या जो भी वो करता है. उसके पहले और उसके बाद में उसको नहीं मिलेगा। तो अब वो जब वो नहीं मिलेगा तो उसके टेम्पर टैंट्रम्स हो सकते हैं, वो आपके साथ वो सब बिहेवियर्स दिखाएगा। लेकिन ये एक रूल अगर आप सेट करते हैं तो मेरे ख्याल से वो फर्स्ट स्टेप होता है। रूल सेट करना फर्स्ट स्टेप होता है, पूरा सोल्यूशन तो नहीं है, पर आप वहां से शुरू करके देखिए, ठीक है। एंड रूटीन में जहां तक उसको, क्योंकि वो 14 साल का है, जितनी घर की एक्टिविटीज में आप उसको इन्वॉल्व कर सकते हैं, खाना बनाने से लेके, कपड़े फोल्ड करने से लेके, लॉन्ड्री में डालने से लेके, सुखाने से लेके, मैं समझती हूँ कि इसमें आपका इन्वॉल्वमेंट बहुत ज्यादा आएगा, आपका टाइम बहुत ज्यादा लगेगा, बिकॉज हर चीज में आपको उसके साथ करवाना पड़ेगा काम शुरू में। लेकिन अगर आप अगर इस वक्त उसको काम इस तरीके के रूटीन्स में इन्वॉल्व करते हैं, तो उसका जो बड़ा होते होते उसके जो स्किल्स बनते जाएंगे, उसका फायदा आपको ही होगा और उसको भी होगा। सो ये दो चीजें सोच सकती हूँ मैं।
Okay. Thank you so much, ma'am.
मैडम, कैन आई आस्क समथिंग?
यस
मैडम, वो ये सब आपने बताया ना, ये सब मैंने उसको छुड़वाने के लिए, मोबाइल छुड़वाने के लिए ये सब करता है, पर वो कितना इतना फास्ट कर देता है ना, जैसे कि अगर मैंने फोल्ड करने को बोला तो वो 5 मिनट्स में अपना काम पूरा खराब कर देगा, फिर बोलेगा मोबाइल टाइम, फिर मैं उसको पूछ दूंगी तो 5 मिनट्स, मतलब वो इतना जल्दी जल्दी अपना काम खत्म कर देगा ना, मतलब स्पीड में। अगर राइटिंग करने को दूंगी तो भी वो 5 मिनट्स में लिख देगा,
क्योंकि वो मोटिवेशन के लिए के साथ कर रहा है। पर हाँ, आपको इसको इस वक्त उसका वो रूल का जो कॉन्सेप्ट मैं बता रही हूँ ना, वो बनाना पड़ेगा। एक तो रूल बना के उसको आपको बांध के रखना है उस रूल के साथ, ठीक है ना। क्योंकि हम नहीं देख सकते कि बच्चा इतना इतना देर स्क्रीन पे रहे तो उसका फायदा उसको नहीं हो रहा है, वो पैसिव है, उसमें हमें उसको एक्टिव बनाना है। दूसरी बात, घर में जितना हो सके टीवी ये सब लगाइए ही मत। एक एनवायरनमेंट घर में ऐसा हो कि वो एनवायरनमेंट में ढल जाते हैं बच्चे, है ना। तो ये एक और चीज हो सकती है कि आप भी नहीं देख रहे तो वो भी नहीं देखेगा, धीरे धीरे। शुरुआत में नहीं होगा, शुरुआत में बिहेवियर्स दिखाएगा भी, हो सकता है, ये मैं नहीं कह रही आपको।
नहीं सच्ची बात है
ना। तो ये करके देखिए। ऑलराइट, थैंक यू।
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. So nice of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mansi, you can unmute and ask your question.
Hello, ma'am. Thank you so much for your presentation today. I would like to know, do you do like online sessions as well?
Yes, I have started doing them now. You mean for children, right? Intervention?
Yes, for children.
Yes.
So I'm in the US. So I'm not sure if you if the timings work, or how it will look like, because in person is definitely different.
Okay. Yeah, I know. Why don't you send me an email? Harshali has shared my contact information in the chat group, right?
Okay.
Please send me an email and we can do a WhatsApp call and find out more.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, just all the information is really great. It's just overwhelming how to implement it. So yeah,
Yes.
I would definitely like to get your sessions to definitely the place, definitely helpful for sure. But thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. I think what you're saying is true for all parents. I'm sure everybody feels a little bit overwhelmed क्योंकि बहुत information है, करने के लिए बहुत कुछ है, आप बहुत कुछ करना भी चाहते हैं. I think my suggestion to all of you is going to be take one step at a time, starting with a routine, starting with a schedule, starting with some predictability, consistency. ये सारी चीजें हमारी एक रूटीन में आ जाती हैं. And identifying what is most important, what is the thing that you can do right away. So it may not be physical play. For example, agar abhi situation is such that you can't take the child outside, what is it that you can do at home? Maybe it's not a physical play, maybe you play a board game, maybe it's not a board game. So you have to find out what works for you with limited constraints, whatever you have. And it's I think it's normal to feel overwhelmed because there is so much information out there and there is so much that needs to be done. But I think take it one step at a time. Start with a behavioral expectation, like I was telling the other parents just now. Many times routines and behavioral expectations are not present in a family, right? And they are the starting point. So we start there, and then, you know, we take it from there, you know, one step at a time again. Thank you.
No,
Next
thank you so
question.
much for explaining that. I do agree with you. I think just doing the first step, I mean, all of this sounds amazing. I just want to be able to do it, but one step at a time, and definitely need a professional help. You know, even though we know all the different playthings, we need someone to guide, and for sure kind of know the next steps and where to reach the child at what level. So I think it's a very, very important piece of the puzzle that I'm missing right now. So really looking forward to connecting with you. Thank you so much, Dr.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Banishri Das, ma'am, please go ahead with your question.
Thanks, ma'am. Beautiful presentation. I want to ask you, I have another daughter also, and my son is aged 10.5 year. If I am present in that position, like ball play or hide and seek, my son is playing with my daughter nicely. But when I am not there, he is not listening. And she is younger one. My son is elder one, and he is not listening. He is not following instruction. Every time I am there, means they are playing something or anything. How can I do like that? Means always prom dependent. By own, he is not playing. If I'll say go bring the ball, they kick, then he will kick. Sometime, then he will keep. Means by interest, by own, he is not playing. How can I improve him? Own play.
How old is the son?
At 10 years 6 months.
And daughter?
Daughter 7 year.
Okay, I think first thing is, of course, जैसा आपने कहा, would you like, so okay, जैसा आपने कहा prom dependence है उसमें. I think
yes.
What I would suggest is, first of all, do an inventory. मतलब एक तरीके से do an observation and identify what does he actually like to do. Maybe he doesn't like balls, and maybe he doesn't like hide and seek at all. So that's why he's always, you know, only when you tell him he does it for you. What are the kinds of activities he likes? What are the games he likes? Do a thorough observation and list it out. Like I said, in many different ways, you know, auditory, visual, sensory. What kinds of things does he get motivated by? And then,
Ma'am, he have too much hand clapping, so he will divert with that. Means he is playing with my daughter. In between, he'll flap and he'll flap his hand. He'll be in one corner. Again, if I come, means by opening the door, he know Mama came. Again, he will play like that.
Okay,
that
okay.
fearness will be there. Mama came, means nicely he'll play. If I stand on, also they will play nicely. If I'll go again, he will not listen to her.
No, this is why I'm saying, please go back to understanding what are his choices and what does he like to do, and start from there. I suspect that the games that we are having him play right now are the things that he's not interested in. So that
but ma'am, hide and seek he's enjoying. Whenever she will hide and he'll find me, he'll laugh like anything. But I'll be there. I think more practice needed. Sometime I'll play, and sometime I'll give the gap, then I'll play again.
More practice could be needed. Second option could be put it in a visual form for him, so that you know it's in his schedule and he can go play in the evening hide and seek time. So it could be just hide and seek time on a daily basis. Third thing, really, I keep going back to the thing, is that there can be something that is more motivating to him than this, that he will do on his own. Okay.
Ma'am, only tapping he likes. Everything he will tap and he will break. Ball also he likes to play. Sometime I saw, means you told, no, sometime you have to observe the child, whatever he likes. He will take the ball, he will kick, he will bounce the ball sometime, but minimum 5 minutes or like that.
Okay,
other than that, he will throw.
It's a matter of practice. Introduce different activities more and more with regularity. I feel that with regularity, he may be able to do things more on his own. Okay.
Okay, ma'am. That musical chair also, if musical stop, he know in the school, every time he will be first position. He know I have to sit. That is there, he have. But I think regular practice is needed for him. And ma'am, you told no that slide pretend play, that one question. We have to go that real park, or we have to create one play area in home. The doll is playing in the park, in the slide. We can do
in the house only. The pretend play is just imagination, that all the, like if you imagine you're going to the forest, you can just create that area in the house with like under the table with the bed sheet on, usme ek plant laga diya, torch light, some snacks. That we are sitting in the forest, there is a tiger outside, some pretend.
Yes, I got.
Same thing. So
not in the real park.
No. Pretend means complete imagination. It's your imagination. Eventually, it should be the child's imagination to do that. Okay?
Okay, ma'am. Okay, ma'am. Thank you.
Sure. All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much to all the parents for so much engagement. This is wonderful.
Can we take more questions, or they can WhatsApp you their question? Yeah.
They have my information. All my information is there on the chat group, right, Harshali?
Yes. I'll put it in all the groups. Also, I would like, just they're asking many, can I share website? I've just opened it, website address also I've put in.
Should I put it, or do you want?
Yeah, I've just shared it.
Okay, great. Wow, this is amazing. So amazing. Thank you so much, Harshali, for this lovely opportunity to meet such an amazing group of parents who are so engaged, and just, I'm so thankful. Like I said, this is, I think, just an overview. This was, I tried my best to do as much as I could, but it's still not enough. I know there will be more questions, and we can do a part 2. Like Harshali said, we are going to discuss and, find a time to do that.
No, wonderful session. Many of them were waiting for this session, and just the Samarthya Foundation is working on lots of many things also. You should visit their site. You will come to know there is very much informative. I've just opened it. Can I share?
Please, that's lovely. Thank you, Harshali.
Yeah, this is the home. This is, you can find about various programs they are running. So you can go through their initiatives, what all they are working on. And I'll quickly run through. You can, knowledge bank, they have various things they have put.
So we are working on various content and videos for parents' help. So we are working on that. And Harshali, if you just show them the inclusive books, I think that's something.
Yes, that I'm coming to all, because this was like inclusive books.
So what we are doing at Samarthya is that we are publishing children's books. So books for neurotypical children, actually books for all children, where we focus on a particular disability. So we have a series of 8 books. This is for children between the ages of 5 and 10 in English, Hindi, and we will have translations in other regional languages as well. But the idea is that what I find is that, children with disabilities are not quite visible in our children's books in India. I think most of the stories don't have children with disabilities just in there. So through my books, what I want to do is, for example, books are magical. In this story, the hero of the story is our little friend who has dyslexia. So through the book, what we do is just, it's a simple story, fun, with, illustrations that children would like to read. But then we want them to have a conversation about what is dyslexia. Do you know someone, who has dyslexia? In order to have those normalizing conversations so that we can talk about inclusion. Because I feel this is an initiative we have through Samarthya, where we are, talking about public awareness by talking to young children. And I feel that unless we talk to young children, about diversity, about diverse abilities, about acceptance, how can we talk about inclusion? Because they are our next generation. So these are the books that we are working on. I'm very proud of this initiative. And we do a lot of storytellings in schools and classrooms. And we do the storytelling, and then we have reflection questions within the book, where we can ask them to have conversations and to ask questions, to be curious, so that we can dispel the stigma around disability and make it more normalized. So this is thanks for bringing this up, Harshali. I totally forgot.
No, and we are going to take up all this. I mean, from Samarthya and SNIC.
Absolutely.
We are also going to do a lot of things, and so you can go through this website. You will find many informative and all the initiatives taken by Samarthya, and I would love to, I mean, show that all. Okay. Anything else you want me to go through?
No, I think that's good. I think if you take a minute to go through the website, and of course, feel free to get in touch with me. You all have my contact information now, especially with the Inclusive Books project. As parents, I definitely need your support. To find schools where we can use these books, showcase these books, do the storytelling sessions, involve the younger generation into normalizing conversations about disability, so that we are not doing awareness drives 10 years down the road, that there is more acceptance, that there is more understanding, that disabilities are part of diversity, of diverse spectrum of abilities. And I think young children need to understand that. Otherwise, we will always have children with disabilities on the sides.
Yeah.
And then you're always thinking about how do we include. I think the point should be having normalized conversations in the society that we are all equal and everybody has equal rights. I think starts with young children. So if you have any thoughts about the children's books and you want to get in touch with me, I would love to work with you or your schools, your children's schools. That would be fantastic.
Yes. Okay, then I think we can stop here, and we will see you everyone in next session on 12th, next Monday.
Thank you all so much for being here today. I really, really love this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Shivani ma'am. Thank you so much.
Shali ma'am.
Bye-bye. Good night. Good night.